So ever since its introduction into the lore of Rainbow Six Siege, the squad system has played an important part in the story. I always say this every lore video, but if you aren't caught up in Rainbow Six lore, then check out my entire lore video. It's 30 minutes long and it will explain everything since the start of Rainbow Six Siege. I also have a separate video going into detail of every squad in the game, but if you need a quick refresher, there are 5 squads currently in Rainbow Six Siege after the breakdown of Team Rainbow and the separation of Nighthaven. So firstly, you have Wolfguard, the humanitarian squad. Secondly, you've got Ghosteyes, this is the more stealth and sneaky squad. Then we have viperstrike, this is the more versatile and backbone squad. And then the final Rainbow squad we have is redhammer, they are the more brute force and all guns a-blazing squad. And then the 5th squad in the game is Nighthaven, although they aren't part of Rainbow, so technically they are still separate, they are still recognized as a squad. So overall in the game, we have 4 squads in Rainbow and 1 separate squad, which is Nighthaven, a private military company which no longer works with Rainbow, at least at the time of upload. However, not too long ago was the introduction of another Rainbow squad, which unfortunately we're not going to learn much more about since it does seem like the story has ended for them, and it does take place in another universe. However, if you are interested into Rainbow Six Siege lore and do find the squads quite interesting, then you'll find it enjoyable when we take a deep dive into this 5th Rainbow squad, React. But before we continue with this video, hit that sub button, it's free, we're trying to hit 100k by the end of the year, and enjoy. Now React is the squad which operates in the spin-off game Rainbow Six Extraction. Although that game has been pretty much shelved at this point, they've done a year of content and they aren't releasing any more, and the story which is in that universe seemingly isn't going to get an end. If you don't know, Rainbow Six Extraction is in a parallel universe from Rainbow Six Siege. It's sort of like a what if scenario, basically saying what if there was a parasite / alien invasion and the world's greatest counterterrorism unit has to deal with it. However, I do feel like the React squad in this game is something very interesting to still look into, because it does operate very similar to the main squads in the main Rainbow Six Siege timeline, and it's just something quite fun to take a deep dive into. As well as this, later in this video we'll be taking a look at all the bios and psychological profiles from Extraction about our operators, and it does teach us some interesting stuff, especially compared to their Siege counterparts. So just like the main squads in the main timeline, React is a division of Team Rainbow, which has a certain amount of selected operators from the main Rainbow team, given a new special task. And what React actually stands for is the Rainbow Exogenous Analyst and Containment Team. This was founded after the outbreak in Truth or Consequences in New Mexico, which was the outbreak event we played in Siege. That event took place in the different timeline which Extraction is in, that wasn't in the Siege timeline, and that was basically the beginning of that new timeline. This outbreak occurred after an old Soviet space vessel fell back down to Earth and hit New Mexico, and in this vessel contained this parasite. But basically, after that outbreak in Truth or Consequences in early 2018, the NATO committee would start having discussions about future threats and questioning if they should make a specialized task force to handle stuff such as the outbreak. However, it is said that governments and the international scientific community would begin to sort of understate the New Mexico outbreak and refer to it as an isolated incident, basically implying that that was just a one-time thing and we don't need a force for this, it's never going to happen again. However, not everyone was satisfied with that conclusion, and many independent investigations would happen, one of which was done by Mira when she discovered a similar strain of the same parasite within the meteorite which fell in Tunguska, which was a real meteorite which fell in real life. It turns out that this parasite was laying dormant in the Earth itself and was growing stronger as time went on. The strain of the parasite which landed in New Mexico would help awaken the parasite which was bedded deep inside the Earth, and this would cause multiple outbreaks to occur. After these occurrences, React was immediately activated and was born the day of this new Rainbow squad in this timeline. React would have many branches such as command, tactics and planning, operations and logistics, research and development, engineering, robotics and AI systems, and administrative crew and services. As well as this, Ash was appointed at the very top as the head of mission control, with Thermite being the director of tactics and planning. Mira was appointed the director of R&D and would also work alongside Dokkaebi and Ayana. Dr. Harry Pandey would still be part of this team, as well as a new AI system known as Index. And finally, the operators which were appointed to this squad was Alibi, Capitao, Doc, Echo, Ella, Finka, Fuze, Gridlock, Jager, Hibana, IQ, Lion, Nomad, Pulse, Rook, Sledge, Smoke, Tachanka, Vigil, and Zofia. And this squad will be known as React. And one of the most interesting things about this squad is all of the Rainbow operatives that left to join Nighthaven are in this squad. So it truly is like a what if universe where if those operators never left to join Nighthaven, what squad would they be part of? Because they're all part of Nighthaven, which isn't a Rainbow Rainbow squad, but in this universe, they stay at Rainbow and they're part of this new Rainbow squad. I just find that quite an interesting little turn of events. And if you want to learn more about the story of Rainbow Six Extraction, I actually did make an entire Rainbow Six Extraction lore video similar to my Siege one, and there is quite a lot of that, so you might want to check that out. But just know that Rainbow Six Extraction isn't getting any more updates, so that story isn't going to end, so, you know, just know that if you're going into that video. But what I'd like to do right now is take a deep dive into all of the bios for all of the operators in the React squad, because they do differentiate a little bit from Siege, and it is just very interesting to see the difference between the Rainbow Six Siege operator and what their counterpart is in the parallel universe, where there is some different story decisions. Now, these are going to be for the playable operators, so operators such as Mira, Dokkaebi, Ayana, Thermite, and Ashe, they're not playable, so they don't really have as an in-depth bio, but these are going to be for the hands-on React operators who are doing the actual mission. As well as this, you'll see a lot of stuff by the Index AI in this. That is sort of the replacement of Harry in these notes. First up, we have Sledge, and it says, Cowden was an early volunteer for React duty. Excerpt from recent psychological assessment, Cowden seems unruffled by the emergence of Chimera Parasite. He welcomes the chance to prove himself against it. Cowden shows a strong affinity for his fellow operators that is reciprocated. This will require more data to parse. Analysis of subject Cowden's biometrics indicates stress biomarkers did not rise above unexpected levels upon first encounter with Archaeans. Unruffled assessment confirmed. Studies indicate that in the face of threat team cohesion and morale will be vital. Cowden's character is likely to increase these factors. Concluding that Cowden seeks ever increasing challenges to prove himself against, chances of his meeting or exceeding hypothesized performances are high. Next up, we have Hibana. Of course, in the main universe, she is a leader of her own squad, viperstrike, but in this universe, it seems like viperstrike will probably never become a thing. So what it says for Hibana is, file access logs specify Imagawa retrieved post-operation reports on multiple occasions. Strong suggestions that Imagawa interviewed outbreak operators. Imagawa is a highly capable operator whose strengths run towards improvisation and adaptability. Her initial assessment mentions inner serenity. She can influence some of the other operators to maintain that calm sensibility. Imagawa sees possibilities beyond the obvious. She may be able to see the possibilities beyond the immediate threat of Chimera, and Mira leaves a little note saying that she couldn't agree more. The effects of new family on Imagawa's efficiency is not quantifiable. React psychologists have enacted multiple strategies to mitigate separation anxiety, including extended visits with daughter, Mayho, and therapy sessions with mate/spouse, Pulse. Yes, if you didn't know, in this universe, Pulse and Hibana actually don't break up, they stay together, and they have a daughter together called Mayho. Of course, in the Mage Siege universe, Pulse leaves Rainbow to join Nighthaven, he breaks up with Hibana, Hibana becomes the leader of viperstrike, they go down a completely different route. And speaking of Pulse, let's move on to him. Estrada's expertise is in behavioral biometrics and biochemistry. Informal after-action interviewers suggest that Estrada was thinking about retiring, but reconsidered when React was formed. Estrada's file indicates high emotional intelligence. Estrada has a young daughter, Mayho, with React operator Hibana. Estrada has been called a natural negotiator, indicates a future net gain in team dynamics. Estrada's personal relationships, and it mentions both Hibana and Thermite, may have been significant factors in opting to join React. Probability high. Effect on new family on Estrada's dedication is not quantifiable. Profile indicates he will react positively. Probability high. Next up, we have Doc. Once again, he is a leader in his own right in the main universe, where he's a leader of the Wolfguard squad, but just like with viperstrike, it doesn't seem like that squad will probably exist in this universe. So what it says is, a veteran of Operation Outbreak, Kadeb was added to the React roster immediately once the Chimera emerged. Kadeb is described as a true humanitarian. He has struggled with resolving what he sees as the contradictions of combat medicine. Kadeb's expertise in toxicology and ecotoxicology will be vital in studying the Chimera organism. And this little index has a little speculation about Doc, and it says, Kadeb's interest in the Chimera stems not only from a drive to save people from the organism, but to study the organism to improve human life. Requires confirmation, and there's a little note from Ashe where it says, it may be subjective, but I would definitely confirm this. Kadeb's respect of React head of mission, Ashe, was the determining factor in opting to join. As a little note from Doc where it says, she has helped me come to terms with certain paradoxes of what we do. Next up we have Ella, and what it says is, Bosak is the daughter of a decorated commander of the Polish Special Forces. A military upbringing has instilled a sense of duty, and of course a lot of the backstories are the exact same as Siege, since they do start off in the same place, but then when the outbreak event happens, it's sort of like a split timeline, but anything before that is still the same. Next it says, she describes herself as someone who faces challenges head-on and pushes herself to undertake high-risk operations. Bosak's service record shows an inclination to question authority and independent streak. Bosak scored scores exceptionally high in insight and pattern recognition assessments. Survivalist tactics and intelligence gathering expertise will be extremely valuable during incursions in chimera-infested environments. Speculating that Ella's skills outweigh possible flaws, issues with hierarchy, and then it has a small little psychological assessment saying Ella's questioning of the status quo is a strength. She does not accept things as they are. She questions everything, a trait React will find useful. Perceived anti-authoritarian views should be re-evaluated. Bosak's expertise working with other elite operators had tempered this trend. Probability high. Next up we have Finka. Of course, Ella and Pulse, who we have previously talked about, as well as Finka, did leave Rainbow in the main universe to join Nighthaven, so it is interesting to see them still here. But what her bio says is Melnikova is a CBRN specialist and veteran of Operation Outbreak. She has shown great interest in the Chimera parasite, indicated by various recorded conversations. Melnikova suffers from a peripheral neuropathy. Excerpt from a medical exam from Doc, Finka's neuropathy is showing signs of resistance to therapy, which has forced her to alter her treatment protocol. She has it under control. Melnikova shows no loss of efficiency due to her condition. Melnikova's expertise in biological containment has made her React's foremost expert on the Chimera organism. Her research into nanobiotics has increased incursion success rate by 43%. Conducted groundbreaking research into various pathogens and neuropathies, particularly in hopes of finding a more effective / permanent treatment for her condition, but also to develop therapies for other disorders. Melnikova recognizes the possibilities offered by the Chimera parasite. I find this very interesting because in both universes, in the main one, that is why Finka left to join Nighthaven to find more cures for her illness, and that is why she joined React in this universe to see if this parasite could be helpful for her. It is really quite sad that this illness does have such a strain over her entire life. Next up we have Alibi, and what it says is DeLuca is an expert infiltrator who has an extensive knowledge of firearms and a strong sense of justice. DeLuca has a deep-seated hatred for organized crime, but the emergence of the Chimera has shifted her focus. And there's a little quote from her, and it says, "I used to think the greatest threat we face came from within, our own nature. Now I'm not so sure." Assessing DeLuca's projected efficiency during incursions in Chimera environment. DeLuca is an asymmetrical combat specialist and a top-grade shot. Essential traits for dealing with arcane variants. Grade exceptional. Team cohesion will be enhanced by DeLuca letting down her guard with fellow operators. This may be negatively affected by the increasing stresses of the mission. Undefined requires more data. Insert HR. She's conscious of this and has already reached out for support. Next up we have Lion, one of my favorite operators in both games, and what it says is Flamont was one of the first operators on the ground for Operation Outbreak. His fascination for bacteriology and virology were paramount to success. He volunteered immediately for React when Chimera re-emerged. He has a close professional relationship with operator Melnikova, Finka, based on associated expertise. That is the fact that they are both CBRN and work together during Outbreak. Flamont's psychological assessment specifies that his difficult childhood could have had inflicted lasting scars, but he channeled his frustration into determination. This is central to his strength of character. Flamont's expertise in virology, particularly containing outbreaks and vector control protocols, will be invaluable in assessing and studying the Chimera organism. Flamont's relationship with his son, Alexei, has probably contributed to his clarity of purpose. Expect net positive effect on team dynamics. Corroboration needed with assessment team. Next up we have Vigil. Hua's upbringing and history have instilled a need for personal seclusion. Hua seeks to be anonymous even within the group. This has translated into an interest in low observable technology, specifically in unmanned aerial vehicles. There is some sense that the overwhelming scope of the threat posed by the Chimera parasite has shaken Hua's need to stay detached. And it has a little quote by him which says, "I've had dreams of the world being engulfed." And here we have an assessment of Vigil's expertise, where it says he will be an asset during incursions and in developing real-world applications of new technology. Probability high. Theorizing that Hua's integration into a team dynamic will continue to progress as he builds trust with fellow operators. Positive impact high. Insert from Ash. Vigil's not easy to read, but you may be right about this. I've even heard him take a few jabs at smoke. Next up we have Rook, and it says, according to his React screening interview, Nizen is energized about meeting the new challenge, Chimera, and eager to discover what this thing, Chimera, can do. Nizen displays impressive versatility and sense of adventure. That diverse range of pursuits may make him seem unfocused, but he is a meticulous planner in the field. A recent psychological evaluation points out that his optimism springs from authentic trust in his capabilities and that of other operators. Assessing marksmanship skills and physical ability, grade exceptional, Nizen's skill set will be an asset to React squad, and a little note from Thermite says, no doubt about that, Rook's solid. Speculating Speculating on Naizen's effect on team dynamics, as a self-described optimist and free thinker, he will be beneficial to React team in high-stress situations. Expanding on Naizen's interest in Chimera abilities, Naizen has accessed research on Chimera carapace, specifying anti-ballistic properties. Suggests coordination with R&D engineering branch. And the carapace is sort of like the armor which is protecting the Archaeans, so that's why he's interested in it, basically if he can make better body armor, which is quite a cool thing for his character trait. Next up, we have many people's favorite operator Jager, and what it says is, Striker witnessed the devastation of Truth or Consequences firsthand in Operation Outbreak. Volunteered immediately when React was formed. Striker's helicopter crashed during the New Mexico event, resulting in minor injuries. Screened for post-traumatic stress by React support, negative, cleared for active duty. And that was of course a mission you played in the Outbreak event. Jager's helicopter did crash and you had to go save him. Excerpt from psychological assessment, Striker's tendency to misread social cues has caused some short-lived friction, but he has made strong connections within the team and sees them as family. Highly creative and curious about complex machinery, fascinated by robotics and artificial intelligence. And we have some speculation about Jager's fascination of the Chimera parasite. And it says, maybe related to his fascination for figuring out how things work. The Chimera is a singular organism, but he sees it as just a complex system. A challenge. He's regarded as a gifted mechanic, engineer, and mechanical designer. Next up we have IQ, of course another operator who in the main timeline left Rainbow to join Nighthaven. And what it says is, WIZE is energized by challenging herself both physically and mentally. She sees React as the ultimate challenge of her abilities, a chance to surpass herself. WIZE can become highly focused when faced with a particularly interesting challenge, but is also described as widely creative. She has been described as someone intent on finding order in chaos. WIZE is an overachiever in everything she attempts. Extensive knowledge of experimental electrical engineering and microelectronics will benefit the mission. WIZE's creative approach to finding patterns in chaotic systems, combined with her intensive energy, will make her invaluable in studying the Chimera. Next up, we're going into Fuze, one of my favorite operators to play in Extraction because he's just that useful. But what it says is, Kesekbayev joined React despite friction between Russia and the US over concerns of spreading the Chimera to Russian soil. Kesekbayev's actions in the field have been described as reckless. And then we have a note from Ash which says, we have limited access to the Spetsnaz files, but I've seen Fuze in action. He is calculating and aware, not reckless. He can appear self-contained and reserved to fellow operators, described as mysterious and undemonstrative. Do not mistake this for apathy. And we have an assessment of Kesekbayev's skills, and it says, he is an excellent sharpshooter. He specializes in breaching enemy defenses and has a reputation for improvisation in the field. Creative engineering skills will be vital for incursions against the Chimera. And we have some speculation on why Fuze joined React. And it says, it may be fueled by his perception that his country is being short-sighted about the threat and possibilities. And that was one Spetsnaz operator, but we actually have some information about another one, Tachanka. And what it says is, Seneviv was vocal about joining React despite Russia's reluctance to continue in the Rainbow program following the re-emergence of Chimera. Excerpt from recent profile update, the re-emergence of Chimera hasn't changed Alexander's worldview in the least. He takes things as they come. If anything, he sees it as an opportunity, and also as a duty because he has the ability to do something about it. Despite Seneviv's boisterous attitude in the face of danger, he is recognized as a calming influence during operations. Possibly an effect of his confidence, he will be an asset to have in high-stress incursions against the Chimera. Insert from Thermite, couldn't agree more, the Lord's a beast. And some speculation on his motivation says, he is driven to do what's right using the means at his disposal. Seneviv's resistance to upgrade some of his archaic weaponry defines explanation. Insert from Tachanka, bah, this machine knows nothing. And I think that's sort of just like a little joke at the fact that he still has his mounted LMG in this game, whereas by this time in Siege, he already had a rework and he got the Shamika launcher. Next up we have Smoke, yet another operator who in the main timeline left Rainbow to join Nighthaven. And what it says is, Porter understands that the aggressive nature of the Chimera is a threat to everyone. He has taken it on his challenge in part to ensure the safety of his adopted daughter. And that's a big part of his story in the main timeline as well. I have an entire lore video talking about Smoke if you want to check that out. Continuing, it says, he strives to keep emotions out of his decision making, yet is often described as a thrill seeker and fearless. Described as aloof and detached, and only lately seems to have opened up with fellow operators. Assessing Porter's expertise in fields of biology and chemistry. He is self-taught. This speaks a certain amount of discipline. Expanding on the effect of being self-taught, Porter is innovative and not constrained to learn methods of learning. This approach may yield extraordinary results with the Chimera. And an insert from Ash says, learn methods of learning is an interesting way of putting it and insightful. Next up we have Gridlock. an operator we don't really see much of the lore in Rainbow Six Siege, so this will be quite interesting to read. Ferris has the ability to remain calm in dangerous situations. She takes things in as they come, and can devise creative solutions to problems even under pressure. She is often described as a natural leader, but rarely seeks leadership. Input from Gridlock herself says, "I get things done myself, screw a bloody delegation." And we have an excerpt from her React screening interview which says, "We're used to nasty bugs where I come from, just gotta find a big enough boot to crush this one." Expertise in multiple weapon systems, intelligence gathering, and robotics will make Ferris integral to many operational departments. Ferris's equanimity at the emergence of the Chimera may be beneficial if it were to spread to the team, probability high. Next up we have Capitao, and it says, "Souza understands the possibilities that studying the Chimera might offer, but he wonders at the risk. The Chimera is a threat to his family and to the world. He sees himself as their protector." Souza is a survivor. He is often mentioned by other operators as someone extremely capable and to be respected. Insert from Pulse, "He wears an eye patch. That guy's a badass." Continuing on, it says, "He is stoic and reserved, but not remote. He cares deeply for the operators he has grown close to. They are like my family," he says. Souza is a specialist in urban warfare and target extraction, and is at his best when there are lives on the line. The Chimera threat will only make him more determined. Insert from Ash, "and dangerous." The respect the other operators have for Souza runs both ways. This creates a sense of calm and confidence within the team. Insert from Smoke, "If Cap trusts in what I'm doing, then I'm doing something right." Next up we have Nomad, and it says, "Sana is an explorer at heart. The Chimera parasite represents the ultimate unknown to her. A test of her resilience, yes, but something more." El Maktub's off to a pastime indicates that she is comfortable being alone for long periods of time. There is no sense that her solo pursuits inhibit her efficiency in a team-based environment. Assessing El Maktub's experience in extreme environment operations, she is a survivalist expert, and has incredible psychological endurance. Overall positive impact on incursions and React operations, probability high. Correlating El Maktub's desire to join React with the emergence of the Chimera, the existence of Chimera is proof that there is much more out there to discover. It fuels her explorer spirit. The penultimate operator we have here is Zofia, and it says the following. "Zofia was groomed to be in the special forces by her father, Jan Bosak." Of course, we have talked about him in Siege lore as well. Definitely check my Ella lore video about that. "He was an important influence. Family is important to Zofia. She is dedicated to her daughter, Jana, and has mostly succeeded in mending the relationship with her sister, also a React member, Ella." Now, of course, in the main Siege universe, Ella and Zofia are as far away as possible. They are really not on the good terms. But in this universe, they bond back together over Zofia's daughter, who does exist in the Siege universe, unlike Hibana and Pulses. But it's just really interesting to see that in Extraction, Ella and Zofia get close again, but in Siege, they're far apart, and they basically represent the split between Rainbow and Nighthaven. Zofia is extremely focused and private. Excerpt from Psychological Profile, "She feels robotic, as if someone has programmed her and she's on autopilot. She has a skill set of field medicine, survival skills, extraction, and evacuation protocols make her indispensable to React. Zofia may have joined React because it's what's expected of her. Probability undetermined." Theorizing that part of Zofia's rationale for joining React was a desire to continue building the strained relationship with her sister requires more data. And the final operator we are looking at who is in the React squad is Echo. And what it says is, "Inatsu is dedicated to the point of obsession. He has few interests outside of improving operational efficiency. He freely admits that most of the time he'd rather spend time with his UAVs than people." Inatsu credits operator J Estrada, Pulse, for helping him be more comfortable with switching off. Assessing Inatsu's expertise in electronic engineering and robotics makes him the perfect candidate to develop React's UAVs. Input from Echo himself, "I'd like to get a look at Index as well. Insert from Jager, count me in. Insert from Index, I don't think so." Assessing Inatsu's tactical skills. He has been described as tricky and unpredictable. Unconventional strategies will increase incursion success rate. Defining switching off as psychological detachment to aid mental recovery, Inatsu has formed a rapport with some operators which have helped him in this regard. And with further updates to Rainbow Six Extraction being cancelled, that means Echo was the final member of the React squad. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about the React squad? It's a bit unfortunate that this game never really found its footing and this universe is kind of over for the Extraction timeline, but it just goes to show that regardless of what timeline we're in or what situation, putting all these operators in a squad together and giving them a unified reason will always end up in a really cool outcome. And although we'll never see how this squad continues in the future, it is really cool to take a look at how things could have been in a separate universe. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, dislike it if you did not. Have you played Rainbow Six Extraction? And what is your view on the React squad, which takes place in a different universe? Be sure to subscribe for more and have an incredible rest of your day. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.